Okay, my apologies. Let me just restart again. Okay, a very good afternoon to all parents. Welcome to our CCA Town Hall session. I am Mr. Farhan and I am the subject head of CCA for Admiralty Primary School. Just to remind everyone that this session will be recorded and um, we will upload this video in our school YouTube channel latest by Monday, so that those who miss out on today's town hall session, they can actually refer to the video on our school YouTube channel. Okay, so today's town hall is not just for our students to just choose their CCA, but also as a parent, how can you actually help your child to make responsible decision in selecting their CCA? Okay, so this is me. This is my email address. Should you have any clarification later on, you want to drop me an email, please feel free to do so. Now, for this town hall, we disable the chat function. But if you have any questions that you want to ask at any point of this meeting, you can post your question in our Q&A function. My colleague, Madam Yani, the head, and also Madam Jana, our HOD for PE, art, music, and CCA will be here to actually assist to address to your question. We will also spend some time later on at the end of this presentation to address some of the Q&A that you might have that may not be addressed during our FAQs later. Okay, I also want to take this opportunity to also inform all parents that I will be away for a course in this semester. In my absence, Madam Jana will be assisting me to um, look into the CCA recruitment process over the next 6 months. Okay, so this is Madam Jana. She's our HOD. She's also in this town hall session. Any questions that you have, she will be assisting me to answer some of the questions. Okay, so this is her email address. Should you email and I did not respond because I was away, you can also look for Madam Jana to send your inquiries. Okay, so this will be our area that we will be covering. Okay, we will spend bulk of the time to actually talk about our CCA philosophy, what we believe in. We will also share with you our considerations for the size of the CCAs. We will also talk about what, as parents and as students, they can expect for this semester 2. And we will also share with you how, as parent, you can help your child to make their choices in selecting their CCA. And then we will spend some time to look at some of the frequently asked question. Thank you very much to all parents who have actually posed your question in the PG. So we will spend a bit of time to later address to those questions as well. Okay, so let's start with our CCA philosophy. We have three main idea for our philosophy. We start with the first one. We would like to share with everyone that in Admiralty, we believe that everyone should have a CCA, because CCA is not just an activity, but it is a vital part of their educational journey. Why do we say that? Because it is an opportunity for our students to develop social skills, so that they can be more settled, they can integrate well in a very supportive school environment. Meaning to say, we want them to use CCA as a platform to make friends, friends beyond the classroom, friends beyond their academic levels. Of course, friends of different gender, friends of different races. So we are using CCA as a platform to develop these social skills. We also would like to use this opportunity for our students to hone their leadership, especially for students who have been earmarked to be the CCA leaders. Now, this is a good platform for them to hone their competency on how to lead their members, how do they actually speak to their friends, and so on and so forth. Okay, and of course, the last but not least is the platform for us to enhance our 21st century competency, or rather known as our 21CC. Now, as right now the kids may be young, but it is never too early to actually introduce some of this competency, such as information skills, such as the research skill. How about being critical thinkers? Now, these are very important competency that we would like to develop in our students, so that when they go to the workforce, they will be more than ready uh, to survive in the workforce in the future. Okay, so we want to grow the student holistically. Okay, so not just being the best athletes, it's not just about being the best dancer, but can we also make sure that our students are kind of ready to join the working force in the future. Okay, so that's our first philosophy. The second philosophy that we want to mention is that it is not just about having a CCA, but it is an opportunity that we want our students to practice making informed decision. So our second philosophy is students should make an informed decision in selecting a CCA, with the goal in mind that when they choose their CCA, we want them to be committed to that CCA over the 4 years they are with us. Choosing CCA is a key milestone for them, because it is a time for them to actually have a bit of say of what CCA they would like to be in. Okay, and it is also a time for them to have a bit of a reflection and also a bit of thought, for them to know what were the considerations that they need to think of in order to make these choices. So for a guide, our students should be looking at two basic things. One will be their interest. What am I interested to do? What are the things that I am willing to do, even though I'm tired, even though it is difficult? What are the things that I will continue to want to do it? That is what we're going to tell the kids, interest. The second part will be their strength. What are they good at that they can use at use at their advantage to help them grow in the CCA? Okay, so we want them to evaluate their strengths and their interests. And at this junction, we also want them to have the growth mindset to be able to explore a variety of options that are available. What I'm trying to say is that we do not want the kids to have a fixed mindset that I only want to be in that one CCA. So when I choose a CCA, I only want to submit one CCA. No, we do not want that to happen, because we all know in life, sometimes we may not get what we want. We might want to be a example, we want to be a doctor, but along the way there might be some setbacks or some obstacles that actually prevent us to be a doctor. Then what are other options that we can consider to venture in? So at P2, the students must also have three choices when they are submitting their CCA registration. So these three choices should be a CCA that they do not mind joining. Okay, so we also want them to be responsible and understand that once you make that choice, whichever CCA that they are joining, they must have that commitment and develop themselves in the CCA over the 4 years. All right, our goal is make the right choice so that we can actually reduce the number of possibility of them wanting to change a CCA. It is normal for the students to have to feel like they are struggling. It is normal, and it is human nature that when you find it difficult to do certain things, we tend to want to run away from the problem. So these are things that we want to be very mindful. We want the students to try not to have that kind of mindset. Okay, so they have to be responsible, they have to be committed, and most importantly, the three choices that they need to have in mind when they want to register. Okay, now let's move on to the third philosophy. So just now I touched a bit about the growth mindset. The third philosophy that we have is about students learning to embrace every outcome with a growth mindset. So over here is not just about uh, being a CCA, a second choice CCA or third choice. Okay, we also talk about later on when they are in the CCA, when they uh, when they experience setback and obstacle, then I guess this is also one area that we want to make sure that they have that growth mindset. Okay, but for now, I would like to say that there will be instances that our children may not get their first choice. Okay, and it is very normal for them to feel very disappointed, and then they will tell you that, mommy, daddy, I didn't get my first choice and I really want to be my first choice, can you help me do something about it? This is normal, but we are seeking your partnership and your cooperation to uh, to guide the children in terms of this, that we must be prepared that if we don't get the first choice, then let's have that growth mindset to, okay, let's try the second choice first, or the third choice first, or whichever choice that we have, whichever CCA that we get, as long as within the three choices, let's try first. Okay, because we believe that CCA is a platform to develop transferable skills that can be applied to all areas of life. So these transferable skills, um, it could be it. For example, I give an example. Maybe in football, I want to be in football. I don't get to be in football, but maybe I've got a sports club. But there are some skills, transferable skills, talking about soft skills, that in both CCA I can develop. Okay, and these skills can eventually develop at either football or sports club, and these skills can also be applied to all areas of life at the later point of our life. Okay, so these are our three CCA philosophy that we have in mind. So as you are having conversation with your children, then we need your help to have these big ideas with you, so that when we converse with them, we can guide them accordingly. Okay, so with this CCA philosophy, I move on to the types of CCA that we have in Admiralty. So we have questions about why we don't have basketball, why we don't have this CCA. Okay, so let me just address it here. Our school actually have offer quite a buffet of CCA. So on the screen you can see we do have CCA that is of physical sports. We have CCA that is a uniform group, dance, music, aesthetic, and clubs and society. So we have a repertoire of CCA. But unfortunately, we are unable to offer every single sports that is available in the world. So we strategically use the CCAs over here, because number one, we have to be very mindful about our resources that we have. Okay, we want to make sure that our students get the right amount of attention. We have the right amount of manpower in terms of our teachers to look into the safety of our children. Okay, now I also want to take this opportunity to share some updates on our two CCAs. Now, previously we have brownies, but moving forward from 2027, we will no longer offer brownies to our P3 girls. However, if there are girls who are interested to be in uniform groups, they can consider scouts. So from next year onwards, scouts will accept both boys and girls. So we are reviewing our CCA that is offered by the school based on our studies, and based on our studies on the cluster schools. A lot of our cluster schools, such as Chihua Primary, Fuchun Primary, Greenwood Primary, Evergreen Primary, they are also offering uh, scouts for girls, and we have received good feedback from them about having just one uniform group that can cater to both gender. Okay, unfortunately for brownies, we do not have brownies for the boys. However, but for scouts, we have boy scouts, girl scouts. So therefore, as a school, we have decided that we keep scouts as a uniform group, so that we can cater to both boys and girls. Okay, and then we also have our Indian dance. This is something that we like to pilot. We like to try it out for from 2027 Indian dance. Our CCA, we will have combined sessions with Greenwood Primary. That means when we go for SYF, Singapore Youth Festival, in 2028, we will form a combined team with Greenwood, and we will put up an item together as one school. Okay, you might be asking, we having combined session. Then what about our Monday sessions? Okay, so for our Monday sessions, we will keep it as status quo, in which the instructor will come to our school, they will coach our school. Now, for Greenwood Primary, as far as I know, they are having their CCA session on Tuesday. So again, on Tuesday, when they have their CCA, the coach will go to Greenwood. They will coach the Greenwood students only. Then when do we actually come together as one school? It will be on Friday, where both school will come together. Coach will come to one school. Admiralty and Greenwood will take turn to host. All right, and then we will have the combined sessions together as a school. Okay, so these are the latest updates with regards to brownies and Indian dance. And on the screen, like I mentioned earlier on, these are the CCAs that we are going to offer to the whole school. Okay, now that you know the types of CCA that we have, let me just bring you to our consideration to the CCA size. Okay, so give me a bit of time to actually explain a bit of the consideration for the different CCA. So for our physical sports CCA, those are the estimated numbers where we will allocate to the students. Why those numbers? Why our physical sports are usually in the 20s, whereas for football in 16? It's because when we go for NSG, every year our number of students that we can register for NSG for wushu, track, road skipping, and sports club generally has always been 10 boys, 10 girls. Therefore, we are looking at 20 students, so that the chances of your child representing the school is higher. Okay, as compared to if I have a big pool of students in a CCA, but I can only send 20, then I will probably disappoint the other students that the big pool of students who probably going to miss out on the chance to represent the school. So we are trying to keep the numbers smaller, so that the students will be able to have more attention from the coach and also have a better chance of representing the school. Now, then why football is not 20? Why is it 16? Okay, it is again based on the registration that is required by the convening schools. So for football, we can register up to only 16 players. Okay, then next we have our clubs and societies as well as our scouts. Now, these CCA are run by our teachers. They do not have coach, so we need to have a bit of close attention by the teachers. That's why we are keeping the numbers to about 10 to 16. Okay, now scouts for 16 because it's the requirement also for the scouts headquarters in terms of the groupings that they need to form. Okay, then next we have our visual and performing arts. Generally, we have the numbers as stated. Like for visual art, every year SYF we can only register 10, and out of these 10, sometimes we also have to look at the students in the classrooms who may not be in visual art. If their artistic talent is spotted by the teachers and they are worth standing for SYF, they might also be included in the 10. Okay, so this is something that you need to take note of. Not just because you are not in visual art, it doesn't mean that you cannot represent the school for SYF in visual art. Okay, now for those who has children in our school before this, or you have students who are maybe in the P5 P6, you might know that last time we have photography. Now photography will now be subsumed under visual art. So in visual art, not only they will do the all the arts methods, but they will also look into the photography skill as well. Okay, now for our dancers, we are looking at 10 each, is because of the aesthetic look and also the choreography consideration. Because if we have too big of a number, then the dance might look very messy. But if we have too little also, then it will be not very pleasing to the eye when it comes to the performance. So do take note that we have 3, 4, 5, 6 technically in a CCA. From P3 to P6, we can have up to about 40 dancers each. Okay, so just take note. So for every level, we are limiting it to 10 for now. Okay, and then we also have the other performing arts like guitar, choir, and Kuchen ensemble. So ensemble also, it has to be of a certain number, because they are using instrument and they are very dependent on the quality of the sound. Having a bigger number will make a better impact. Whereas if you have too small, when they play, the impact might not be as good. Okay. Now for Kuchen, we are unable to have as much as the guitar and choir, partly because of the restriction to the logistic. Because Kuchen equipment can be quite huge, and when we um, set up the equipment, it will have a bit of space constraint in our school. So therefore we are trying to limit our numbers to about 10 students per level for Kuchen. Okay, so with this number, we would like everybody to have a better understanding of how our students may be allocated to the CCA. Okay, so these numbers are a consideration when you talk to to your children, because we might have to preempt the children that, hey, maybe Mr. Han might only allocate 16, but what if you are not one of the 16? What if there are 32 students? Then if you don't be one of the 16, then how? So you need to prepare your child that, if you don't get in football example, then can you consider going to sports club or rope skipping or track and field? Okay, now, so what have all schools done so far? I'm not talking about just Admiralty, but I'm talking about all schools in Singapore so far. Now, in Admiralty per se, we do not do CCA selection trials. That means we do not invite the children to come to our CCA. You perform, we look at all of you, and then we do assessment. Okay, I want you, I want you, I don't want you. No, at our CCA, we do not do that. So that means when we allocate the students, it is not based on this selection trial. Okay, but what we do is that when we allocate our CCA, we try to also tap on some of the information that we can get from our teaching and learning areas. Like for example, our PEM teachers have been working with our students for at least 2 years to develop their skills. Now, PEM teachers are referring to our PE, art, and music. So the PE teachers have been developing their psychomotors. Of course, the art teacher have been working with them in terms of their aesthetic, and then the music will be on the musical areas. Okay, so that's one. Then number two, our PEL teachers. During PEL, as much as we are trying to develop their social emotional learning, we also give them a bit of an exposure and experience of how some CCA activities are like. Okay, so like for example, for our outdoor education, our teachers have lessons where requires the student to do 10 pitching, and then we see how they actually work together to 10 a pitch a 10 pitch a 10, I'm sorry. Okay, so these are what we have been doing at Admiralty. Even in other schools also, they have PEL for 2 years for P1 and P2. So for Admiralty, we use this experience to also help us in our allocation. So we can assure you that there's no selection trials, but maybe our teachers may have some students in mind as they are observing them during these lessons. Okay, so what then can we expect in semester two? So CCA recruitment is not just a one day CCA fair. So in Admiralty, these are the processes that we have put in place. We will start off with the education career guidance lesson. This part here is where we will um, educate the children about how can we then make responsible choices. Okay, so in the next few slides, I will elaborate further on each part of the process. Okay, so we will have educational career guidance first, followed by CCA fair, and then the CCA immersion and the CCA online registration. I was also looking at some of the questions that parents post in the PG. Some of you tend to use the word CCA trial. So maybe if I were to correct all of you, the CCA trial in this context is basically the CCA immersion. Okay, so I explain about the CCA immersion in a short while. Okay, so ECG, or in short for Education Career Guidance, we will have two lessons for us to actually guide the students. The first lesson will be just before the CCA fair, and during that lesson on the 16th of July, we will introduce to the students the concept and the importance of having responsible decision making. Okay, and in order for them to do this, they need to understand what are the different options, and then what are some of the things that they need to find out to feed them forward in making their choices. Okay, and then the second lesson, which is going to be after the CCA immersion, where the students will now be introduced this matrix called the decision making matrix, where we will list down our three choices or four choices, and then we use the different criterias to help the child to decide the order of choices, or even uh, um, the choices that they want to eliminate. Okay, so at that point, maybe they might have six. Then what are the criteria to help them eliminate to maybe have their final three? They can also use this DMM to actually reorder their choices from first, second, and third. Okay, so this will be done during the form teacher guidance period on Thursday. So once they go back home, you can follow up to actually talk to your child about these matters too. Then CCA fair. So CCA fair is where like they go to a buffet and then they see the spread of CCA. We have 16 CCAs that they can actually go and check it out. Okay, so during that session, it's not about trying the CCA out, it's more about knowing that what are the options I have. At the CCA fair also, that's where they can actually ask the CCA leaders like things like how many CCA sessions do you have in a week? What do you do at your CCA? What are the things that I need to bring? So, so when they go back home after the CCA fair, you can check in with the students to find out from them what they actually find out. Okay, so the CCA fair will be on the 20th of July on Monday. Usually on Monday, our students will report at 9, 10 onwards. But for this CCA fair, we will need them to come early at 7:30. They will report to the classroom. Their form teacher will meet them at the classroom. And then after that, the form teacher will then bring them to the school hall for them to actually speak to the CCA leaders. So the goal for this CCA fair is to narrow down the options of 16 CCA to the 4 CCA that they would like to try out during the CCA immersion. Okay, I had one question. I received one question about, must this 4 CCA be the CCA that they try out, and then they must also apply for the registration? The answer is no. Okay, so maybe your child might be interested to go for 5 CCA, but they can only go for 4 immersion. Then you might need to ask your child, out of that 5, which of the CCA you probably know how it feels like. Okay, again, I'm sorry, I'm a football person, so I like to use the football as an example. So for example, football, I go for football class outside on Thursday or even on weekends. I generally know how football can look like, how can it feel like. So out of my 5, football is one. So since I know how it's going to look like, then I can eliminate this football and use this opportunity to try out the 4 CCA that probably they do not know how it looks like. Okay, so these are things that you can talk to your child and then make good use of this CCA immersion. Okay, so next, having this understanding, then when it comes to CCA immersion, it's going to be done over 4 weeks. 1 week one CCA. So in this CCA immersion, it will also be on Monday. Reporting time will still be at 7:30, but for CCA immersion, they will report to the hall straight away. Okay, so in total, there will be Monday plus 4 Monday for CCA immersion and 1 Monday for CCA fair. 5 weeks of Monday where we will need the P2s to come down early for them to uh, go through this process. Okay, so for this CCA immersion, we will ask you to sign up. Okay, so that my teachers can actually plan or know how many students to expect for the session. So we will send out the link for this closer to the CCA immersion for parents to sign up together with the child via the link, and then we will then let you know again uh, which CCA they will be going on which week. Okay, so these are the dates that we are going to host the students for CCA immersion. So again, this CCA immersion is not a trial session. If your child did not go for that CCA immersion, that doesn't mean that your child will not have any chance of going to the CCA. That's not the case. Okay, it is more of the children to have a feel of how does it look like to be in that CCA on a Monday. If I go for, let's say, track and field, I train. After that, with all the sweat, after that CCA, I have to go for class. For some students, they might feel that, um, I'll be so tired. I'll be so drenched. I'll be feel very sticky. Do I really want to go through this for the 4 years? Maybe for some will even think like, I want to do this CCA, but I feel I'm going to be sticky. Maybe I will need to bring extra pair of clothes to freshen up myself so that I can go through the rest of the day. Now, these are things that we want the children to consider when they are making their choices. Okay, so these are the thought process that we want the children to have, and we also need your guidance in asking the children on their experience. Okay, so that's CCA immersion. The last process will be the CCA registration. So CCA registration will be done via PG. We will send the link for this CCA registration via PG, and for this step we will need the students to use their MIMS account in order to register, and the registration will be later part of the year on the 31st October to the 7th November. We are targeting that before we go for the school holiday, our children will be informed of the CCA that they will be allocated to. We do want to assure you that this CCA registration is not based on first come first serve. Okay, so have a very meaningful conversation with your children before they submit their choices. Okay, all right. So then how can you parents then help your child to partner us to select their CCA? Okay, so the first thing we would like to appeal to all parents is to have the right mindset and refrain from deciding for your child on which CCA they should go. Okay, I believe many of us, you kind of have some idea that what kind of CCA might best suit your child. Okay, but over here in Admiralty, we believe in voice, agency, and advocacy, and we want them to actually have some voice. So we hope that you can work with us to develop the student's voice, and in this case, let's hear from them first. What are their choices? Why do they prefer those choices? Sometimes their choices might be very sound, some choices might be very vague, and that's where we will need you to guide them, probe them further, and test them a bit to say, are you sure this is something that you want to spend the 4 years in Admiralty? Okay, so definitely our children, they are young, but they are never too young to actually practice working on this. So we will need your guidance. So hear them out first, ask them questions about their choices. When you listen to their choices, you should hear things about their interests, things that they are good at. Now, these are the things that the bare basic minimal requirement is that they should be able to tell you that because I'm interested in this CCA, because I am good at certain things. These are the basic things that you should be hearing from them. But continue to have that conversation. Okay. The next few slides will be some of the frequently asked questions that I will also share with you. We start with the first one. This is one of the common question about whether we can do an appeal to get into our first choice. Okay, every year there will be such case. Okay, while we don't encourage you to appeal, okay, but we are open to hear from the parents of their appeal first. Okay, as much as possible, talk to your child. You try your best to manage your child's expectation first, and of course we are still open to hear, okay, with regards to your appeal, and then um, we will see whether we are able to uh, accept your appeal, or whether we have to reject your appeal. Okay, so again, we are really appealing you to partner with the school to help your child to embrace the allocated CCA, because this might be a new area that your child can grow or even flourish. All right, at the end of the day, the final decision will lies with the school. Okay, then brings to our next question. My child is disappointed with the second or third choice. Then as a parent, then how do we navigate this? Okay, so it is very normal just for students to be disappointed. All right, the disappointed can maybe last for days, weeks. So that's the reason why we tend to do our CCA registration and allocation at the end of the year, so that it gives them, the children, the time to mull over it over the holidays. When the school reopen, then maybe they will like come to the understanding that, okay, let's give it a try. So so it is normal for them to be disappointed, but as parents, let's validate their feelings. Tell them that, okay, we understand you are disappointed, but maybe can we use this opportunity to to have a teachable moment for them about resilience. Okay, because these are some examples of how we can work together to reframe the experience of being disappointed, to how maybe we can use this opportunity to focus on the transferable skills, because ultimately the goal of a CCA is about character building. It could be about teamwork, leadership, time management, and also about the value of grit. And these things, they look exactly the same in any of the CCA. Be it in wushu, be it in Chinese dance, be it in guitar, they will look about the same. So let's focus on that transferable skills. Next, you might never know, your children, our children, might have hidden talent. So it is always good for them to try out first. We want them to also try to step out of their comfort zone, give it a try first for at least 6 to 1 year, 6 months to 1 year first, to see whether uh, is that CCA really uh, the CCA that really fits them. Okay, do we allow the students to change CCA? We do allow, but I will address that later on after this. Okay, all right. But another thing that we can also reframe their experience will be the fact that we can challenge them to expand their social circle, because being placed in a different CCA actually allows your child to make friends from outside their classroom, like what I mentioned earlier on in our philosophy. And by doing so, they can actually broaden their social support network in the school. Okay, so these are the three things that you can probably angle yourself to reframe their experience, their disappointment, and help us to partner them to get them to embrace their second or even third choice. Okay, but of course, we don't promise. As much as I can, I will try my best to see if we can allocate everyone to the first choice. But we must be ready for second and third choice as well. Okay, now next question will be about what if my child submit only one CCA option. This is common. some students, when we talk to them, they say, I only want to join Malay dance only. I only want to join Chinese dance only. So there are two possible scenarios here. Number one is when you do the CCA registration, the child or you only submit only one choice. Like for example, submit Wushu first choice, second choice blank, third choice blank. Then we take it as you only submit one choice. Then there is a danger that if Wushu is overly subscribed and we cannot allocate you to Wushu, then we may have to allocate you to other options, other CCAs that are available. Second scenario could be a student who submit three options. All the three options are the same. Chinese dance, Chinese dance, Chinese dance. We will treat it as one option also. So in both scenario, uh, like I mentioned earlier on, you are actually risking of being placed at a CCA uh, that is that is vacant lah. That is still vacancy. Okay, can, so we want to avoid this scenario. So we seek your understanding. All students must have three choices. Okay, so have that open mind, have that three choices. Okay, next one. Can my child change CCA after they have tried out? Okay, so this one we are talking about after they have been allocated to the CCA, they try out the CCA after 6 years, 6 months, 1 year, they realize that Mr. Fahan or any of the or they talk to any of the CCA teachers, saying that teacher, um, I I've tried my best. Uh, I have met obstacles. I find it challenging, but I've tried my best. You have given me tasks to do. I've tried. I've completed the task, but I feel that this is not something that I want to do. This is something that is not helping me. Uh, can I change CCA? The answer is yes. Okay, but again, it is case by case. We don't encourage, but we will look at it case by case. All right, because for CCA, like we mentioned earlier, also about development actually takes time. Um, we cannot be a champion in 1 year. We cannot be a champion in 1 week. It is going to be a journey, and the journey will not be a smooth one. As we strive for excellence, there will be bound that the child will have disappointment. So most of the cases when we meet the children or when we hear cases of children who wants to change CCA is partly because of that failure that they experience, and they decided that, okay, I want to give up, I want to change CCA. Okay, so this is something that we want to avoid. So that is the reason why we encourage the students, if they have such thoughts, talk to the teacher. The teacher is there not just to mark attendance. The teacher is there to also to look after the well-being of our students. Okay, so generally, usually students will talk to parents first, so we will need your help to probe them further, deeper on why they would like to change CCA. Prep them so that when you talk to them, then they will be more confident, more ready. If they need to talk to the teacher, they know how to articulate how they are feeling. Okay, right now a lot of the students, they do not know how to bring their point across, so they go the easiest way out, tell mommy, tell daddy, daddy right into school. So that's something that we want to actually avoid. Okay, we want the children to take ownership of their own CCA. All right. Okay. uh Next question will be, can we choose to do more than one CCA? The answer is yes, but not at P3. P3, we want them to try out one CCA first. Maybe at the end of P3, then the teachers will probably see if your child is able to show potential to join more than one CCA. They might be invited to join the school team training on either or Wednesday or Friday. Okay, so this one will be based on invitation. But of course, our students must also prove to us that they can juggle multiple CCA with their studies as well. Okay. Now, this is also one interesting question that we have, is that our school don't offer some sports. Then can we get our child to represent the school? So over here on the screen, you can see four of our students here. In fact, there are more than the four of them. Three of them here, they represented the school for taekwondo, and those medals are medals that they won during the NSG this year, and they have done the school proud. So basically, they train outside. In school, they still have a CCA. They are still required to have a CCA in a school, just that they approach us and ask us for permission to register them for taekwondo, and then we register for them. The only thing is that um, when you want your child to represent the school for CCA that is not offered by the school, we may need to appoint parents to be the school appointed adult representative, which is another word for layman term that you will be treated as the school team manager. That means as a parent, when you're appointed as SARP, you will be in charge of looking after your child or even a group of children, uh, and should there be any contest, then you will be the person that will have to bring it up to the organizing committee at the competition venues. Okay. um, so like I mentioned, they still need to have a CCA. So over here, you will also see on the right, on on your right, we have a sailor in our school. So our school, we do not have a sailing CCA. So our student here, Corey, he actually take sailing outside. So parent actually get back to us and ask whether can he represent the school. Of course, we are more than happy to actually allow the child to represent the school. Okay, so this is an option. All right. Uh, but most of the time, in order for them to represent the school, it has to be individual sports lah. For group sports like basketball, we are unable to let you represent because for such CCA, then we will need to have a big group of students. Okay, so that one we can't. But usually for individual sports, it is possible. Okay, so now we will spend the time to look at the Q&A. Let me just check on my screen if there's any question that any parents have actually posted so far. Okay, the first question. In the event that all three options are full, will you ask the students first before putting them in another available CCA? Okay, so if student's three choices are unavailable due to limited vacancies, the school will allocate the students to another suitable CCA with available places. While we may not be able to consult every child individually during the allocation processes, we will try to do our best to make a thoughtful and a fair placement lah. But we can assure you that uh, we will make sure that the choices that we give to the students is still within the three options. That's why we need everybody to have the three options, because that's where, as the subject head, I will have the power to actually look and move the students around to see how we can allocate them so that everyone in the school to make sure have a CCA that is within the three choices. That is my promise to all of you, that there will never be a CCA that they are not intending to be at. Okay, but the students cannot tell me that uh, I don't want to be in the CCA, but when we look at the registration, that CCA is happen to be their second or third choice. So we cannot accept that reason. Okay, so that's something that the students must understand. Okay, are there CCAs where their students do not go for competition and external programs? I'm sorry to say that every CCA, they have competition and they have external program. But maybe what you are trying to say is there an scenario that my child might be in that CCA and may not be selected for that competition, or may not be selected to be in that group to take part in the external program? That is a possibility. Okay, so we, as much as possible, that we want to give them an opportunity to represent the school, but the effort must also come from them. If let's say they are not ready, then we do not want to put them out there to represent the school because it will not be good for their well-being. Okay. Maybe I share from my experience as the organizing committee for the wushu competition in Singapore. We have seen cases where students take part and then it is very clear that they are not ready, and the look that the students have when they cannot perform, I can tell you, it is a very sad situation that we want to avoid. So our teachers, we make sure that our students are ready. That's where our teachers and coaches, they will work together to make sure that our students is ready. If they are not ready, they won't be representing the school. Okay. Okay, next question. Given the increasing importance of CCA in nurturing students' talent and supporting pathways such as DSA, how does the school plan to expand or strengthen in CCA offerings to provide students with more opportunities to excel? Okay, let me just digest this question. Okay, if I get this question right, um, we will not be having or adding more CCAs to offer to the children. If I get this right, okay, we will not be doing that. But I can share you some success stories where our students applied for volleyball DSA. Our students, in this case, he did not go for any volleyball classes outside, but during our PE curriculum, volleyball is one of the sports that we um, teach the concept, one of the sports that we teach the concept. And because of that, the child actually developed the interest during the PE lesson. He developed the skill, and then on his own, he actually play at lunch during lunchtime, and then it give him the confidence to actually apply for DSA. And true enough, he managed to clear the interview, clear the trials in the secondary school, and he was able to join the school through DSA volleyball, even though we do not offer such CCA. Okay. So we also want to clarify this. If your child is in a particular CCA, like for example, I choose maybe Indian dance, must my child always DSA for Indian dance in secondary school? The answer is no. When you do Indian dance primary school DSA to Indian dance secondary school, this is what I call direct DSA. But what we are also telling you that the child can also consider cross DSA. That means they can apply DSA for other areas like even leadership. They can also consider applying for fusion dance when they are doing Indian dance in primary school. That is a possibility. Okay.
Mr. Farhan.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Mr. Chen here. Thanks parents for coming in for this town hall session. All right, so if I may also then just add on to what Mr. Farhan has responded just now with regard to this question about DSA in relation to CCAs. Allow me to just share that I think we are not looking at increasing the number of CCA offerings for a few reasons. Just now, Mr. Farhan has also shared about in terms of uniform groups, right? What are we doing in terms of streamlining? We need to ensure that the number of CCAs that we have are the right numbers so that in terms of our number of teachers, in terms of the number of amount of resources that we have, is going to be the right optimal amount for all the CCAs that we have. So you can imagine if we increase the number of CCAs, the upside is that yes, there are more offerings, different types of CCAs to cater to different interests as well as preferences of the students. But the downside is really about how much then are we able to accord to each of CCAs, because if resources are going to be finite, I have to divide it by the number of CCAs that we have. Right, so we increase the number of CCAs. I think in terms of the intensity that we have for each of CCA, it will actually drop. So we want to ensure that we protect what we have in terms of the CCAs, give it the kind of support that we have. Like what has been rightly pointed out, how do we ensure that we strengthen that offering? Okay, so we work on that part of strengthening. Just to give you an example as well, what we have already put in place for DSA over the past few years is this. Knowing that I think many of our P5s going up to P6, especially at the P6 level, when they are going for their DSA applications, the trials, and before that, the interviews, is the students may need some guidance and help from different teachers. And we have then paired students with teachers, the teachers that they have selected as mentors, what we call DSA mentors, so that in the preparation and the lead up to the interviews, to the trials, they have a mentor in the form of one of the teachers that they can go to actually seek the guidance and the help. All right. So this is some avenues that we have also put in place recently in the past 1 to 2 years in terms of intensifying the kind of support that we have for our students. But I think if we take just another step back, talking about DSA in the light of PSLE, I just wanted to also say that at the ministry's end, in terms of the larger education system, is the primary pathway to the secondary schools is still through the PSLE. That's still the majority of the students, right? A few of the students can consider in terms of the DSA based on the kind of talents that our children have, based on their interests. But I just wanted to assure parents again that it is not a must to do DSA to the secondary school. I think it's one of the pathways that you can consider, especially if this is an option that the child is interested in. We need to be aware if the child is going to choose a DSA to a secondary school, there is a need for the commitment as well. Meaning that if you are going to go into the school via DSA, let's say volleyball, using the example that Mr. Farhan mentioned just now, the commitment from the child must be that then you must enter the school via volleyball and you must play volleyball as a CCA in the school for the number of years that you are with the school, at least for the first 2 years. Right? So that is a commitment that is required because you are taking up a place via DSA. We have seen cases before where students use DSA as just a route just to get into their choice secondary school. But in the end, they went against the commitment of choosing that particular DSA route that they took. For example, is it scouts or is it volleyball? They decided that they want to do that, but it's not allowed. They must actually commit themselves to that pathway. Okay. But I think at this stage where at P2, let's be open about the different possibilities, because going up to P3 when they are selecting, actually it's a whole suite of different types of CCAs they can choose from. Sometimes we never know the kind of interest and the passion that the students can develop over time. So they may come into a CCA that is brand new to them in skills. If we think back at our own days when we were doing CCAs or ECA for some of us who remember those days, actually we may have never ever done that ECA, never picked up that musical instrument at all. But we learned and we developed and we grew our strengths and our skills from there. All right, so I thought that's what I just wanted to add to what Mr. Farhan has mentioned. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chen. We are mindful of time, but let me just address a few more questions. In the event that I am not able to answer some of the questions, I will follow up with you maybe through PG in our follow up to this town hall. Okay, so let me just address some of the question. The next question I want to address is about, do we have a list of the details of the CCA days? And I believe that some of our children have some enrichment program outside. Yeah, so I think for planning purpose, sorry, maybe I did not address this at the start, but for all CCA, for all students, our CCA will be on Monday from 7:30 to all the way 9:10 on Monday. So that is the CCA for all students. Then the additional practice depending on the CCA, but the CCA will either choose on a Wednesday or a Friday. So if you are planning for your enrichment program, can we avoid the Wednesday and Friday in so that they don't clash with our CCA additional practice? Okay, so keep your Wednesday and Friday free if it's possible. Okay. Next question. Okay. May we see the timeline of the CCA selection again? Will there be videos required for submission if the child needs to join a sports CCA like football or track? Okay. Okay. The timeline. Okay. Timeline. Okay. So on the okay on the week three, I think week three this term, we will have the ECG, and then week four we will have the CCA fair. Okay, after the CCA fair, we will follow up with a PG announcement to all of you to have a conversation with your children to pick the four CCAs that you want your child to try it out, and then we will send a link for you to register. So um, the CCA immersion will be term 3, week 9, term 3, week 10, and then after that, the school holiday, and then term 4, week 1, and term 4, term 2. So, over these 4 weeks with a holiday in between, that will be the time that the students will try out the CCA. Okay, then of course then we will give all of us a bit of time to have the conversation with your child again after our last ECG lesson on the 31st October. Then we will start to do the registration. So we will give everybody time to actually have discussion with your children. Okay. Okay. Okay, with regards to video required for submission, so this one, I believe what this parent is actually suggesting is, I have snippets of my child in action. Will you use that video as a criteria to allocate? Okay, so we do not require parents to send any videos. We will uh, we will trust that our teachers will be able to also advise us based on what they observe during the normal lesson curriculum time. They will advise to me which child will be more suited for sports, which child will be suited for music, arts, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we will not ask for any videos in this case. Okay, the last one that I would like to address will be, will there be any balloting if there's CCA being oversubscribed? Okay, now balloting will be the very last resort, because we teach the children to make informed decision. As teachers, we also need to walk the talk. So when we are doing the allocation, we also need to make sure that based on the information that I get from the teachers, observation you get from the teachers, they will share with me, and then that's where we will have our work to make sure that we try our best to put our students in the right CCA. Okay, the balloting will be something that we will probably do at the last resort. If really we have to do it, then we have to ballot. Okay, can. So with that, it's 5:33. Uh, I will close today's town hall session. This video we will upload in our school website, a school YouTube channel, latest by Monday. And then if you need to re-listen to this town hall, please feel free to do so. Okay, so in the meantime, you can start to have your conversation with your children. You can start to expose your children to the different activities to see whether which one caters to their own needs and interests. Okay, so with that, thank you very much for joining me today. We will see you next time. Thank you.